When was the last time you felt truly welcomed? It probably wasn't at a big box department store, despite the smiling workers and matching vests. It probably wasn't at a contentious Thanksgiving dinner, even though the food was good and everybody knew your name. No, the last time you felt truly welcomed was the time someone expressed genuine investment in deeply knowing you. The moment could have been at a gay bar, a coffee shop, an open mic, or a church. You were wanted there, all of you. This is what it means to be radically welcoming. At many organizations, it's easy for welcome to mean a smile and a cup of coffee. Radical welcome supports these warm entry points, but it doesn't stop there. Radical welcome challenges us to embrace a culture of intention and inclusion that begins the moment a member or visitor encounters our congregation. The term radical is derived from the Latin radicalis, meaning of, relating to, or proceeding from a root. When we say radical welcome, what we mean is a welcoming philosophy that gets to the root of true acceptance and hospitality. What is the root, you might ask? It's people. The people you're welcoming are the core focus of successful church hospitality, membership cultivation, and growth. People first welcome requires transformation and interrogation. What is the experience of a new visitor upon entering our church? Do multiple members speak with them warmly, or does the visitor awkwardly struggle to break in amongst existing social circles? Does the existing congregation know how to thoughtfully engage with new faces who are different from them? There are urgent, practical matters at hand, too. Does this individual, regardless of their gender, have an accessible place to go to the bathroom? Do they have clear, meaningful ways to deepen their connection to the existing community? Do any of the faces and the pictures on the walls look like them? Join us in the milestones and misadventures of this ongoing major cultural shift in our congregation.
Someone saved my life tonight. It's an Elton John song lyric, but it's also our business in Unitarian Universalist congregations. We may not be saving souls, but we are saving lives. Your congregation's ability to spread the gospel of welcome far and wide to help each person in the congregation join the effort of making someone feel welcomed, seen, and truly cherished, it can save someone's life. People are struggling financially, mentally, struggling with bigoted policies in legislatures, cruelty in our national discourse. The post pandemic era, if that's what we are in, is full of struggle and chaos. Church is the hope of the world. This is the place you encounter to remind you that life is worth living, that the world is worth saving and savoring. This is the place where you replenish your chalice when the spark begins to fade. Imagine a congregation where everyone feels seen and heard, where we challenge ourselves to rethink everything. The way we conduct our services, the liturgies, the language we use, even how we organize our ministries to ensure an all embracing environment. That is the heart of radical welcome. But it doesn't stop there. Congregations who embrace this philosophy also actively reach out to those who are marginalized, who out there in the world who work tirelessly to confront systemic injustices, both inside and outside our congregations. If you are marginalized out there, you will be centered in here. By challenging our own biases and our own prejudices, we can create an atmosphere of belonging that allows every person to fully participate in the life of our spiritual communities, thus making them more beautiful. So let us embrace the philosophy of radical welcome and create a slice of heaven here on earth, a world within the larger world, a world where everyone is beloved, everyone is precious, and everyone is fully welcomed just as they are. We often notice that when our volunteers, formerly known as ushers, were stationed at the door with their paper orders of service, these are two things we don't have anymore. We don't have ushers and we don't have orders of service. But we often notice that when they would be stationed at the door, we would overhear them saying whatever came into their mind when they saw someone enter through the door, across the threshold for the first time. Here are some real examples of real things that we overheard our real ushers saying to newcomers. There's not enough room because you're late. I'll see if I can squeeze you in. I don't recognize you. Are you new? How did you find out about us? All of these statements are casual and they might seem like no big deal. However, they are all anxious examples of a non welcoming congregation. They all serve the purpose of letting someone know they are late, they are not already known, there is a punitive aspect to some of this, or they must prove they already have a connection to us. They all say some version of, let me show you how we do things around here. And they're not radically welcoming statements to encounter on a Sunday morning. And these statements can inflict a lot of damage when someone is suffering and just looking for refuge. The very first word that you should hear when you walk into the store is the word welcome. Welcome. I am so glad you're here today. That's it. You don't need to make a comment on the time of their arrival or whether or not you personally have already seen them before. You just say welcome. That's it. Our Sunday morning radical welcome team is going to make you feel seen and cherished right when you enter the property. I mean, even when you first pull up into our parking lot. The radical welcome team, often known as our Sunday morning guides, because they will be guiding each visitor from the point where they enter all the way to their seat. So you will be guided all the way through your process. Our Sunday morning radical welcome team gathers each week early in the morning for some reflection and prayer and a theological connection together. After their prayerful connection, they will discuss strategy and logistics. Who is going to be serving coffee this morning? Who is going to be stationed outside of the sanctuary? Who will be stationed near the fellowship hall? So they'll discuss all of that. And finally, they will remind themselves of their primary commitment to begin each encounter with the word, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Remind me your name. Welcome. I am so glad you are here. It's a beautiful day. Welcome. I'm so glad you are here. Let me show you your seat. I welcome you. Welcome to Sunday morning at UUCA. In our volunteer training for our Radical Welcome Guides, we rehearse these moments. We rehearse the 10-second encounter. We rehearse the 30-second encounter. And we rehearse our response to microaggressions, to things that might pop up when someone is coming into the congregation for the first time. That might be a statement that is racist, that is anti-trans, anti-queer, that is ageist or sexist or anti-child. So there are all kinds of things that can come up when somebody enters the building. Our process has an interesting acronym right now. Perhaps it is under construction, but right now the acronym is BEFA, BEFA. That stands for breathe, evaluate, feel, act. When you encounter a microaggression on Sunday morning, you go through that process. And this is a big part of our training for our Radical Welcome teams on Sundays. Breathe, evaluate, feel, and act. So recently we had a very beloved longtime member of the congregation, a very sweet elderly lady, white lady, welcome, who was wearing a Radical Welcome shirt that says, the t-shirts that say come sit by me, because we are disrupting an earlier ethos of people saving seats for their friends. So now our Radical Welcome t-shirts say come sit by me. So she was at the front door and welcomed somebody who was a person maybe in their 20s and 30s, we're not sure, African-American woman. And her first statement was, I don't recognize you. I don't know your name. Now, another member of the Radical Welcome team observed this encounter and wanted to intervene, as they were trained to do. First, they took a breath, breathe, just to calm their own nervous system that they're about to engage with some people in a challenging moment. Next, they evaluate what actually happened. So this older white lady, longtime member of the congregation, told a visitor who was maybe a first-time visitor, we're not sure, younger African-American woman, that she didn't know her. She didn't already know her name, and she didn't recognize her. So that's evaluation. That's exactly what happened. The next step is feel. Feel what that brings up for you. So this bystander felt anxious, felt nervous to approach the elder, who's a longtime member, as I've said, also felt protective of the African-American woman who was a new visitor, also felt a little afraid to intervene in this encounter, and mostly just felt those feelings of protectiveness around our Radical Welcome strategy. So the next thing to do is to act. So this person, after they have breathed, evaluated, and felt their feelings, then intervened and said, welcome. I am so glad you are here today. Let me show you your seat and get you a name tag. And then she came back to the elderly lady and talked to her about how we are meant to begin with welcome. I'm so glad you are here, and not to begin with just saying whatever is on our mind in that moment, which is that I don't know you. So she talked about it. The woman saw her error and wrestled with a little bit of guilt of her own, but then she remembered to always begin with the word welcome. People enter our congregations with a million different dynamics going on Sunday morning. They are skeptical. They are rushed. They are excited to see their friends. They are anxious. They were forced to attend with their spouse or parent. They are embarrassed by their kids' behavior. They are working hard to bring their mother, who is in a wheelchair, so she can see friends and have a moment of connection amidst the loneliness of her days. Please do not assume that your visitors already know the culture of your congregation, because the truth is, they are the culture of the congregation. Our visitors, our guests, anyone who comes in to our ministries and our programming, they are a part of us from that moment on. Once they cross that threshold, they are a part of us. We don't have to teach them our ways. Instead, we must be open to their dynamic, all the gifts, all the excitement or pain that they are bringing across that threshold. And then we come to the worship service and my welcome as the minister at the top of the service. I want you to hear from your pastor or from the pastor here that you are welcomed explicitly. I treat our welcome like the Beatitudes. If you are downtrodden that week because of a terrible bill a bigoted bill that has been introduced in our state legislature that would restrict your rights, then you will receive a very special welcome in the liturgy from the clergy. If that week you are feeling terrorized by another incident of police brutality and violence, if you are wondering where you can go and just feel safe because of your race in America, then you are going to hear a very specific welcome to you from the pulpit, from the clergy at the beginning of the service.
Welcome this morning to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Atlanta. I am Reverend Taryn Strauss, Senior Minister here in this place where we are transforming lives through soulful connection and courageous action. And I want you to hear something this morning. I want you to hear and I want you to know in your heart, in your bones, that if you are transgender, if you are gender non-binary, you are welcome here. You are loved. You are cherished and you are supported. We honor you today. We will fight for you. We will make this place a safe haven for you, a place where you can feel safe and feel seen and known. That is our vow. And the truth is, I think we all know it, that for one reason or another, most of us wander through our lives looking for a place where we can belong. What if I don't believe in God or a higher power? What if I do believe in God? What if I don't know and I'm comfortable in the not knowing? What if I struggle mightily with my Unitarian Universalist faith? What if I love the 7 principles and I don't know how else to be a Unitarian Universalist? What if I love being a Unitarian Universalist and I don't know the 7 principles? What if I have screwed up in my life? What if I have hurt people? You belong. You all belong. You all belong here.
This is a dynamic religious movement, and people long to be seen, and they long to be welcomed beautifully into a congregation. And if you come through our doors, you will be welcomed effusively. You will be welcomed probably multiple times. When we encounter someone who comes through our doors who may be more introverted, we stay agile and we let them end the connection. But the assumption we operate under is that everyone deserves to be approached and actively welcomed. We must always turn outwards, looking beyond ourselves, serving beyond the community that already exists and is already well served. And that's the ministry. Our longtime members have deepened in faith through their experience of radical hospitality. Through the prayerful reflection that our radical hospitality team undertakes on Sunday mornings, and the communal commitment to welcome, our most skeptical members are feeling the good energy. They are inviting more and more of their friends to come and check us out on a Sunday morning so they can receive some of the goodness. They are connecting with joy, they're connecting with community, they're connecting not with perfection, but connection itself. Understand to whom you belong. You belong not only to the people who are already in the pews, you belong to the larger community. You belong to those future members of your congregation who have not found you yet. Because life is hard in 2023. People are struggling out there, so welcome them with open arms. Make them feel seen and cherished. It is a healing ministry you can provide. And besides, the life you save may be your own.
Hello, I'm Bryce Thomason, and I'm the Director of Finance and Operations here at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Atlanta. And even before I took this specific role, well, I'm what you might call a Unitarian Universalist evangelist. I sincerely believe that our faith has something that many other communities are missing. Our values, they call us to show up in the world in a way that's actually hard to find elsewhere. The world out there is a difficult place. Between pandemics, systemic racism, full-out war against our trans and non-binary siblings, school shootings, well, you name it, while other religions seek to divide and isolate, proclaiming only one true way, people show up here as they are, and they are enough. I've seen churches that are radically welcoming on the surface until they learn that you're gay or that you're pro-life. Well, that's not the kind of radical welcome that we're talking about here today in this workshop. We are talking about authentic radical welcome to people who may have never known true acceptance, people who are used to being marginalized and pushed off to the periphery. How do we make those people feel at home? Now that is radical welcome. You see, radical welcome is not just about offering a warm smile or a firm handshake. When someone walks through the door, no, radical welcome, it's about making a real and transformative impact on people's lives. It's about creating spaces where everyone, regardless of their background, their culture, their social standing, gender, whom they love, well, they can feel truly included. Now, at this point, I can almost hear the thoughts in the room, but my house of worship, my place of worship, is already radically welcoming. We welcome people with open arms. Well, that's fantastic. However, are you going far enough? Are we going far enough? We have to actually challenge ourselves to rethink our worship styles, our language, and even the physical spaces that we create. That's where we'll know if we're actually creating and embodying the spirit of radical welcome. So I'm going to just dive into a few of the various aspects of radical welcome as they specifically relate to my role as the Director of Finance and Operations here in our congregation. So let's begin by talking about accessibility. And I'm not just talking about wheelchair ramps, although providing ADA recommended ramps, curbless sidewalk cuts, and push-button activated doors are essential. I believe that radical welcome goes further to truly consider the needs of individuals with visual impairments and hearing impairments, those with cognitive and developmental disabilities. So from tactile maps and braille signage to assisted listening devices, there's so much that we can actually do to create even more accessible spaces, which is truly radically welcoming. Here in our facility, we use an application called Listen Anywhere. It allows our members and our visitors to use either a hearing loop that we provide or an app on their phones, which connects to their hearing aids or to their headphones, to be able to pull in an audio feed from the soundboard. As people in our congregation age, we are extending radical welcome in ways to make accommodations for all that they are and all that they are becoming. As Shay, our communications director, will discuss a bit later in this presentation, this also extends to designing marketing collateral and signage for colorblind folks, offering hymnals in Braille. There are experts that can actually help your church think about the various personas of visitors that may need extra care to feel radically welcomed. And while we're talking about accessibility, I want to talk about all gendered restrooms. By providing restroom facilities that accommodate people of all gender identities, we send a powerful message of inclusion and respect, acceptance. After all, everyone deserves a safe and comfortable space to, well, you know. We were fortunate here at our church to be able to design our facility to only have 100% all gendered restrooms. The decision, it was actually fundamentally clear for many in our congregation, but we still had our fair share of anxiety among mostly some of our more aged congregation members. As with all things that are new and different, communicating both the why and the how, well, it helped us to actually take them on this journey of inclusivity with us. From people worrying about cleanliness to where they were going to put on their makeup, we had people that were concerned about only having all gendered restrooms. But we actually gained grace by just talking with them and explaining how radically welcoming it would be for those visiting and for those who called this place home. All of the anxiety that was around those restrooms, it completely evaporated the day that we opened, and I never heard anything about that issue raised since. The seeing, it allowed the believing to occur in this case. You may face similar challenges in engaging your congregation in new ways of thinking. I'm happy to speak via email or a virtual coffee to help you think about ways in which you can help surmount anxiety over your radically welcoming ideas. Now, I want to shift our focus a little bit to security. In this age of mass shootings, we have to talk about it. I mean, we're all on guard to some degree when we enter any public space, be that a school, a theater, and yes, even our liberal churches. With radical welcome, we're talking about creating welcoming spaces, but we also want to ensure the safety of our congregations. I mean, how can someone feel welcomed and at home if they don't even feel safe? So there's a delicate balance here that we have to walk. This is where you're going to need some help. And the Department of Homeland Security has produced the Power of Hello guide for houses of worship. And it's going to come into play here. If you're unfamiliar with the document, please download it. You can just Google it. It has essential information that's both easily digestible and can be shared widely in your congregations. And I think it's interesting that the most critical part of this guide is reflected in the title, The Power of Hello. With Radical Welcome, we're going beyond hello. It's a massive part in keeping our congregation safe, and it'll be a big part in keeping yours safe too. If you radically welcome people, you've already taken a critical step in prevention. By building strong relationships and fostering a sense of community, we create a vigilant and caring environment that is more likely to identify and address potential security risks. You may also want to think about incorporating elements of crime prevention through environmental design, often abbreviated CPTED. It allows you to create spaces that encourage visibility and limit uncontrolled access while maintaining our commitment to openness and inclusivity. There are experts who can offer guidance for your particular facility if this is an area of concern. Just remember that people connecting to people and keeping them engaged, it's both radically welcoming and it's providing the first and perhaps the most important component of safety for your congregation. So, how do we put all of these ideas into action? How do we take the concept of radical welcome and turn it into reality? Well, it's going to start with each and every one of us. We must be willing to ask tough questions, to challenge our assumptions, to open our hearts and our minds to new possibilities. It's about more than just changing how we design our spaces. It's about changing how we see the world and our place in it. We must truly actually listen to the stories, the hopes and the dreams of people that are around us. We must be willing to learn from one another, to grow, and to change together. And most importantly, we need to be willing to take risks, to step outside our comfort zones and embrace the beautiful messiness of human connection. It's not going to be easy. Change never is. But I believe with all of my heart that the philosophy of radical welcome, it has the power to transform not just our places of worship, but our lives, our communities, in fact, the whole world. And isn't that a future that's worth striving for? Let's remember that every person we meet has a story to tell, a dream to share, and a heart that longs to be seen and understood. Let's challenge ourselves to go beyond the surface, to reach out with love and empathy, and to create spaces where everyone can truly belong. In the words of the late, great Maya Angelou, she said, "I've learned that people will forget what you've said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." So let us go forth, guided by the philosophy of radical welcome, and make every person we encounter feel seen, valued, and loved.
There are very few decisions I make in my life without Googling them first. From picking out a new air fryer, the world's best kitchen appliance, or finally watching White Lotus, Jennifer Coolidge is my hero, to pursuing a mental health diagnosis. Spoiler, it was OCD. Most of my life's decisions, big and small, are in some way informed by the first impressions I made on the internet. My name is Shay Stewart Willis. I'm the Director of Communications for the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Atlanta, and I hold the secret to starting your visitor's experience off right. Want to know the secret? Come closer. Okay, a little closer. Whoa, way too close. The secret is not hidden in my pores. Relax. Okay, so the secret is that radical welcome begins the moment a visitor learns about your church or congregation for the very first time. That means for many of your members and guests, radical welcome might start on Google. Radical welcome could start on Instagram. Radical welcome starts with what's written on your roadside sign, with the images a person sees when they enter your building. When I think about marketing and branding for UUCA, I'm thinking about narratives. How does a visitor's story start at our church? What's the inciting incident? The moment they decide to read our website, come to a Sunday service, or attend a religious education class. In order for a person to feel moved to engage with us, they need to feel radically welcomed. They need to feel like all the parts of them are celebrated here and that our values include them, that they can trust us to take care of them. You might be thinking, yeah, but Instagram? Can a little digital internet graphic do all that? Yes, it can. And no, it can't. Radical welcome is a cultural philosophy. It doesn't belong to any one department. A good graphic, strong social media copy, the right messaging on your roadside sign or banners in your entryway, all of that is a part of a radically welcoming experience. It's the first invitation in. Once folks choose to engage with us, it is a collaborative effort to create an interpersonal, radically welcoming experience. So, how do you create an invitation that holds that type of transformative power? What does it take for a stranger to see an Instagram post and decide to come meet you on a Sunday morning? For your branding and marketing to be radically welcoming, it must be specific. It must be values driven, and it must be simple. So let's talk specificity. What does your congregation look like? What mood does going to your church evoke? What language do you want folks to associate with your congregation? All of these questions drive brand and begin to shape your specificity. You can use existing resources like an effective mission statement to build out your branding voice. For example, our mission here at UUCA is to transform lives through courageous action and soulful connection. The phrases courageous action and soulful connection are repeated often in our newsletter, in our social media, and in our printed resources, along with other phrases that are recognizable from that mission statement. Repeated language communicates your congregation's specific values. Consider the tone of the language you use in your newsletter, on your Facebook page, and elsewhere. If you read that copy aloud, does it feel warm and invitational, or maybe a little overly formal? Anytime a statement is written to represent your church, your congregation is speaking to the public. What is a prospective visitor hearing? Get specific about the colors you use to represent your church. Choose a color palette that fits the mood you want folks to associate with Sunday morning worship. These visual choices, I know, might seem small, but every representation of your church is a visitor's first impression. The more specific you can be about what it feels like to be a part of your congregation, the better chance you have that a visitor will want to come and be a part. Their idea of how they could fit in will be specific. Their ability to picture themselves in your sanctuary seats will be specific. Branding is not a bad word. All branding means is how a company or organization represents themselves with language and design. Branding is about telling your congregation's story. Your church has a specific story. You deserve to have a specific brand to represent all that you have to offer. Whether you have communications and marketing staff or volunteers, they can work together to create guidelines to unify your presence online and elsewhere. Language and visual guidelines, such as unified font and color choices, go a long way toward capturing the energy of your congregation. Now that we've gotten specific, we want to use this branding framework to share our values. Values-driven assets, from physical signage in your building to 280-character tweets, communicate radical welcome. If we value our interfaith population, which of course we do, we should be marking the high holy days of major religions on our social media. If we value children, which of course we do, we should be sharing moments of triumph from our religious education program. If we value transgender people, which of course we do, we should not miss the opportunity to share a message of hope on Transgender Day of Visibility. When hateful lawmakers attack the civil liberties of folks in our area, we can make a bold statement on our roadside sign. We use our platforms to stand up for anti-racism, abortion access, and urgent issues in our communities. There are everyday values as well. Valuing your music program means sharing highlights from Sunday worship. Valuing the wisdom of different social thinkers or UU clergy might mean sharing quotes or resources from time to time. Our language also communicates our values in practical moments. When we were debating how to remind our community to keep our restrooms clean, it was easy for all of us to lapse into the passive-aggressive or even aggressive-aggressive. Instead, we decided on a cheerful sticker in each stall that reads, "Please think of your neighbor and leave this space as clean as you found it." This encourages folks to work together to upkeep our shared resources rather than universally chastising our community. And as a result, our bathrooms are typically notably cleaner. Even in these small moments, the visitors and members are learning something about your values. I know. All of these opportunities to communicate our values can feel overwhelming. One of my values, though, is ease. What we want is a sustainable way to share your values with your community through your preferred channels of communication. What we do not need is a perfect, flawless social media schedule that never misses a single interfaith holiday. This is about the opportunity for a visitor to witness your values on social media, in the hallway, or heck, even in a bathroom stall, and feel like they have a better understanding of your congregation and community. These moments of connection should be high quality. They do not need to be high quantity. The last cornerstone of radical welcome in marketing and communications is simplicity. This is difficult for many of us beloved UUs. Simplicity in our public-facing communications does not mean that we can't also share complex values, spiritual identities, or history. Simplicity simply means straightforwardness. In order for a message to be aligned with the values of radical welcome, it cannot be confusing or overwhelming. A simple way to address this is to always read your writing aloud, whether it's a newsletter, a sign, or a Facebook post, and imagine for a moment how a member or a brand new visitor will receive it. Now, I have another secret for you. Come closer. Okay, a little closer. I am not perfect at this. In fact, I am nowhere near perfect at this. I recently found out that despite a year's worth of effort spent on making our website visitor friendly, aligned with our radical welcome values, an independent design analysis firm gave my work an F. An F! I've never gotten an F before in my life. Sometimes it takes an outside eye to show you your pitfalls. And another aspect of radical welcome philosophy is embracing transformation. Allow yourself to miss the mark and be transformed by helpful feedback. There have been other moments of pitfall. It is difficult to balance the demands of increasingly digital young demographics with our many beloved members here who prefer printed newsletters and pamphlets. I have had many conversations across difference to ensure that all of our generations feel encouraged and empowered here at UUCA. The point of sharing this knowledge is not to say that I am the ultimate authority of radically welcoming marketing and branding initiatives. The point is to say that every moment your church speaks is an invitation. We, myself included, take so many moments of potential connection for granted. What would it look like if we lived into the intention of every internet post? If we challenged ourselves to express our values even on the handwritten note about the dishwasher policy? We have the ability to express a radically welcoming ethic from the moment a prospective visitor Googles inclusive spiritual home, insert your city here. Let's embrace that challenge. Let's embrace the potential for connection.
Come this way. Come this way. We're going to stand right here. One here, one here. Okay, hold on. Now, in case you ever get to do this, there's a technique to cascarones. You don't just want to like crack it on their heads. No, you have to squeeze them first and then let it go all in their hair. Are you ready? Yeah? Here we go. I can't get this one done. Hold on, we're going to do one, and then we're going to do the other. There we go. All over. Good job, guys.
Hi, I'm Laura Beth Brown, Director of Lifespan Religious Education here at UUCA, and I'd like to welcome you in. I'm going to show you a few of the ways in which we radical welcome children and families on Sunday morning. So this is our reception area. This is where our families and children come in on Sunday morning, and they go straight ahead to that portal that you are looking at right now. And so we use the realm system here, and this allows everyone to check in when they arrive. It's one of our key safety features for Sunday morning. And then once they've checked in, then they go over here to our little printer, and it prints out name tags. So it prints out name tags of the children as well as the parents. And there is a little code on each of those name tags that helps us keep track of what parent and what child belong together on a Sunday morning, which is important for our teachers when parents are coming to retrieve their children on Sunday mornings. And what also is really great, and she's not here today, but our own administrative assistant, Lynette Walker, is here on Sunday mornings as well to greet all of our families as they come in and let them know where they are supposed to go. And if you follow me this way, I can show you the signage. So this is where our families and children learn where they are going. So we have certain classrooms on the first floor. We have certain classrooms on the second floor, including adult religious education and the parents group, The Village, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. So how about I show you one of our classrooms? So you can follow me this way. So here is our preschool classroom. Come on in. And I want to talk about one of the ways that we radically welcome families and children. And that is in every one of our classrooms on Sunday morning, we have one person who is the dedicated greeter. That means that that person is in charge of welcoming families and children. So as they come to the door, that person is going to talk to families and children, call the children by name, which is also very important for radical welcome, while the other teacher is sort of taking care of the class at that time as children are arriving. So of course, for safety reasons, we have 2 adults in all rooms, but we have one that is always a dedicated greeter. So that's one of the ways in which we are committed to radical welcome on Sundays. And so some other ways that we radically welcome families with children on Sunday mornings is that we create spaces where children can be how they need to be and for families to feel comfortable. And so we have what is called a wiggle room in our sanctuary. So you can see it has these glass windows that are sound resistant. There is also its own speaker.
Within.
And it looks out over our chancel area. They have a direct view, as well as the screen of our slides is also directly in view as well. And so that is offered to families with children really of any age who just want to have a little more flexibility and movement. And so they can go into our wiggle room. And then if you'll follow me this way, we have what is called our Wonder Wall. And so our Wonder Wall offers toys that help people who like to fidget or move around or who can focus better when that is happening for them. And this is really meant for people of all ages. We definitely have adults who take advantage of our Wonder Wall. So let me show you exactly what that is. So right off of the sanctuary, we have this shelf full of various items, including coloring and some fun activity pages for kids, crayons, markers. We have Rubik's Cubes, as well as other little colorful puzzle type pieces that they can play with. We have basic fidget toys as well. Some pipe cleaner activities. I love these. These are my personal favorite. These are finger mazes. So there's a little marble inside and you can move these around to do the maze on the piece of fabric there. And we have some things for our youngest children as well. So learning how to zip and to button, and some fun little dinosaurs that allows them to start developing their motor skills. And then we have just some teddy bears here for some comfort toys. And we have some loons so they can make some pot holders if they would like to. And so those are some of the ways in which we try to make the experience of worship fully inclusive for everyone. And when on a Sunday morning they are done with their items, they take it to the sanitization bin and they just drop them in there on when they are done. And then those items get sanitized and put back into the Wonderwall cubbies before the next Sunday. So we have found that having a space where children can come together and play while parents are just able to hang out, have conversations, maybe drink coffee after our worship service, has been key to helping families build relationships and feel truly welcomed and invited into community with other parents. And so we are very fortunate to have this playground that is meant for multiple ages. And so we definitely find our families with children out here on Sunday mornings, but really any space in your congregation where children have the opportunity to free play while parents are also just able to talk and have conversations is important in welcoming families. So now that you've seen some of the just very tangible and practical ways we welcome families with children on Sunday mornings, I also want to talk a bit about the philosophy behind why we do what we do. And it really comes from the Orange philosophy, which was started by Christian minister Reggie Joyner. And the idea behind Orange is that you combine the light of the faith community, yellow, with the heart of a loving family, red. And when you combine these two, it creates orange and significantly increases your ability to have an impact on the life of a child. So when I started to learn about this philosophy of orange, the question that came to my mind was, how can we as a congregation build relationships with families that are useful, relevant, and spiritually fulfilling? So first, I want to say that relationship building is truly central with what we do here at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Atlanta. It really is the context for all of our ministry. And for me, that means that I personally am intentional about building relationships with volunteers and helping them to build relationships with each other. So for instance, every Sunday morning that we have our religious education classes, and we call it our Soulful Start time, and that is religious education for all ages. I bring those who are teaching that morning into a huddle, and this is also something I learned from Orange. And much like a sports huddle, we just all gather around in a circle, and I am there to offer them an opportunity to ask questions, any questions they may have. I might also have relevant information that they need to have with what may be happening in the larger congregation that morning. We typically have some sort of centering opportunity, whether it's a reading or prayer or an opportunity to go around and offer our gratitudes that morning. And then we have a prayer, a meditation. We hold hands, or in the pandemic, sometimes we were doing elbows. But we were all coming together and having that moment to center and ground and really focus on why we do what we do with our children and youth on Sunday mornings. Holding that space for them and being with them and the joy that that brings us. And that has been a great way. In just 10 minutes, it's just about 10 to 12 minutes tops on any Sunday morning that they have before they go into their classrooms, and it helps them to build community with each other. And another way that I like to build relationships with volunteers or for volunteers is to help them create spaces in their classrooms where they are developing relationships with the children and helping the children develop relationships with each other. And so again, relationship building becomes key. We offer, especially the first 3 to 4 sessions of religious education in any given year, community building opportunities throughout, so that they are really getting to know each other. And even this year, we had an interesting time where we had an influx in one classroom of a lot of new kids. And so we literally stopped what we were doing with the curriculum, switched gears, and went back to community building to make sure that those children were going to be incorporated into the Sunday morning and get to know all of the children there and each other. And we have found that when we prioritize that, then the children are in a better space to be receptive, to learn, and to experience whatever we are offering. And the opposite is also true. If the children are not feeling connected to each other or feeling connected to their leaders on a Sunday morning, it really doesn't matter how good the programming is or what it is, they are not going to connect to it. So community building really is at the heart. So when it comes to volunteers, we also have challenges, and I'm sure you have experienced this as well, where there has to be a balance between the programs that we create that we hope are welcoming and the volunteer capacity that is realistic. And what I have come to learn is that it is so important that we always put people over programs. We want to make sure that whatever we're creating, that we are realistic with our volunteer capacity, and that we are asking our volunteers, one, what would they like to receive from our programs? How do we make this a spiritually fulfilling experience for them? And that when we are asking them to volunteer, that we're really focusing on their skills and interest and matching them and telling them how we're matching their skills and interest to the program that we are trying to create. And this is such a difference than just trying to figure out what the program is going to be first, and then trying to plug holes with volunteers who may or may not be right. Ultimately, we would not have programs in our congregations without our volunteers. And so when we can create opportunities for volunteers to serve in ways that are exciting, spiritually fulfilling, and fun, then that will ultimately translate into successful ministry, and it will help us retain those volunteers for the future. So I've been talking about building relationships with volunteers and helping them build relationships with each other and with our congregation in ways that feel welcoming to all. I wanted now to talk about families and parents and how do we build meaningful relationships with families and the congregation. How do we build relationships with families between each other? And so one of the ways to truly set the foundation for what many people are calling family ministry is to let parents know that they do not have to parent alone. That really is the basis for family ministry. And so we understand that it takes a village, as has been said, and as a result of that, we have created what we are calling the village, and that is an opportunity for parents to come together on Sunday mornings while their children are in religious education to have their own spiritual time. And that spiritual time may look like a grounding, centering worship. It may look like talking about various issues that they are having as parents with regards of what's happening in the community. And it may look like more of an educational opportunity. How do we take this faith home to our children, for instance? And when we provide opportunities for parents to nurture those critical relationships and connections that positively affect their child's future, then we are helping parents parent beyond their capacity. Now, this may not sound radical to those of us who have been in faith communities for a long time, but when you have new families entering our congregation from a white supremacist, individualist culture that they are experiencing on a regular basis, they really are looking for something that is, in fact, radically different. And what we offer them is that collective culture. We offer the opportunity for them to be part of a collective where they do not have to parent alone. So when families show up here at UUCA on Sunday mornings, I want them to know that they can arrive just as they are. So real, not ideal, and know that the transformative power of this community will support and love them no matter what. And so what that means is a family ministry model encourages parenting from the perspective of relationship. So again, the village. So that perspective of relationship instead of competence and abilities, which is what our white supremacist culture is always telling them. And for many new families, that is truly radical welcome.
Thanks, Laura Beth. So one way that music has really helped our radical welcoming is in setting the vibe on a Sunday morning. When people walk in, we have a playlist playing, music specifically curated for our worship theme. It's a lot different than walking into a silent sacred space, or more often, a sacred space where a lot of people are talking to each other, while new people tend to sit alone and silently by themselves. Then, when the service begins, we just jump right into singing, and we leave the doors of the sanctuary wide open. We don't want it to feel like it does when you show up late to a play. You know, the ushers are bringing you in, people are trying to focus on one thing, but they're distracted, so they're annoyed. You don't want anyone entering into the sanctuary apologetically. So instead, the music's going. They just come in, they can sing along as they go. Everyone's invited to the party. Sing along as you find your seat. We also have a rotating art gallery outside of our sanctuary. It is both beautiful, it enlivens our walls with art specifically curated by local artists to match our worship themes. It's a really cool way for people to see a little bit about us, a little bit about our faith tradition, but also as a conversation piece for new members and a beautiful thing for introverts to look at and enjoy as they become more comfortable in a new environment. Music and the arts have always been a great way for prospective congregants to get connected. At UUCA, we are leaning deeply into that as we try to create the most radically welcoming congregation that we can.
As Unitarian Universalists, we are committed to transforming the world through love and justice, to create the change we wish to see, to live fully into our potential as faith communities. We must embrace intentional growth. What does it mean to be a truly invitational community? We have to embrace a radically welcoming ethic in all that we do. Thank you for joining us for this overview of our vision of UU evangelism. Now, go forward and dream your own means of innovation in your congregation to make it feel just a little bit more like home.
Go in peace, everybody.